And cameras again.
Sure.
There's 4 copies of the attachment on the agenda. Anybody want a copy?
Yeah, but I don't know why.
I don't know, maybe not. What is 4L?
Hey, John, how you doing? I get stuck sitting up here. That's right. Well, you get stuck between
You want to
the,
trade?
rows of two.
Sorry.
How you doing, guys? Nice to see you. Where those cowboy boots? Just a different kind of cheap.
Oh, Ross, good, you?
It's every as that ramp comes up the mountain.
What's it?
I did.
Is that on the agenda?
He
Tell
did.
you how nice it is.
Yeah, I'll add it right now.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yay.
Save the day.
I had to go. It was bad.
We're live right now. on audio. I can try to- but we can start this live.
All right, we've got Zoom routines working, so we're gonna get started.
Live right now. It's hot mic.
Hey.
I'm not worried. I saw it online.
Okay.
So I saw it. Okay. Didn't understand much of it. I saw it. I was gonna ask you, but we're looking a little jargon-esque. Oh, yeah, it's like,
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 4:02. Roll call. Heather usually does this, but I can do it. Heather, not here. Chris Chang,
Present.
Rita.
Here.
Steve Hurt.
Here.
Steve Kern. Here. Patrick McLaughlin.
Here.
Thomas Morris.
Here.
Roy Townsend, here. Liz, not here yet. John.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda for our November 13th Parks, Pathways and Preserves meeting?
I'll move.
Second.
Second. Any additions or changes? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here. Next, we have introductions and recognitions. Roller remote sensing in GIS. Who's familiar with this item?
The 3 of us.
Okay, good.
I'm not so much familiar with this. I obviously know Norm, but I'm not familiar with this topic itself to refer to. Rita?
Do you mind? I'm gonna keep
Yeah,
taking notes.
yeah, you know what, so Norm Roller is here at the table and he has been working on a project that he would like to share with us. And, Norm served on the Parks.
Okay, well, this is a project that my company has been working on for almost the last 18 months, something that we use to develop products that we might be able to market to other folks. But we're doing it for you for free, which is a nice deal, I think. And we have learned a tremendous amount, and what we've done is produced a land cover map of the township. When we do this for real, you see nice pictures on the walls. This is something I can carry around. 22 categories, unprecedented, I think, at the level at which, the spatial level at which we're talking about in a township, to be as accurate as this. It also matches the Anderson Hardy and Roach USGS category mapping system, so you can transfer from one of those to the other. And the beauty of it is, it's digital and it's very accurate, and you can then apply spatial techniques to it that allow you to look at the relationship between the vegetation types and things that are out there, not just how much of it there is. So let's say you want to find out where is the part that is the least connectivity to other habitat types. We could tell you things like that, because we have a software program called FragStats that looks at the fragmentation of the habitat. And one of the things that's most important to messing up biodiversity is fragmentation. And almost every unit of government is trying to figure out how to deal with that. So here's a map of just your forest categories. You can see they're pretty evenly distributed, right? But then you look at this category, and These are the black categories, oops, I forgot, guys, folks back here, these black categories in the center, that's your impervious materials. That's where all the things are that won't let water drain through them. And they're all concentrated along Jackson and the roads and the places where people live. So there's not much of it. So that's the kind of thing we can easily tell you what's, what does that mean? That's what we call a mental model, and that's what you're gonna tell us, because you're the experts on what this information means to the environment and how you manage it. We can help you access it, and that's what we're going to do. So in the next few months, we'll be coming by, talking to you. Come see me if you want to. We can meet separately. Probably have some training sessions on how to use this stuff, and we'll go from there. Because as I learned in my Latin, it's always a good thing to ask the question, "Quo vadis?" Where are we going? And I think we have a unique opportunity here to use a database that's nobody else in the country has right now, but you do. And I think we can do some great stuff with it. So I encourage you to think about things that would make a difference, like where the connectivity is between things, the abundance, the relative abundance, all that kind of stuff, all that geographical context in which you make decisions, but it's very hard to make measurements. I think we can do it now. So let me know, come up, see me after, and we'll talk about it.
Well, you said we have this now?
Yes,
Is it on the Scio Township website?
it's on my computer at home, and I'm ready to distribute parts of it. But yes, it'll be made freely available to those who are working on it, and then we'll put it out freely after those of you who have applications have worked with it to everybody. But it's not something, it's not a traditional map in the way you would think of a map that has things that butt up against it. It has to be used in a way of understanding overlapping of things. So we hesitate to put it out there because it could be, just to let people work with it because they might misinterpret it. We want you folks as the experts to go through it first and vet it. Pardon?
We have it.
Pardon?
We don't have it yet, correct?
You have access to it, but it's not physically housed here yet. But it will be eventually.
So Scio Township has access to it, the board has access to it, PPP
You will,
members have access to it, Murphy Harrington has access.
You will, yes, this is the first bringing of it out into the daylight. We've been working on it, and we're now starting to bring it out and introduce it to you folks. We will put it on your website eventually. You'll have free access to it. Everybody will. Why not? It's free data. It's produced by the Sentinel-2 satellite system by the European Space Agency. 10-meter resolution, twice a week. It collects data. Fantastic resource. And now we can answer a lot of questions that we've had about how fast are things changing? Because we can look back over time with the Landsat data, track something into the modern Sentinel-2 data and see, like, for example, what's really going on with forest change.
The glossary.
Pardon? I know, that's why I hesitate to throw too much out there because it's like a fire hose. Right? So I'm trying to,
Talk to the racists.
bring it up a little bit at a time and not get everybody too scared with it.
Okay, so let me kind of dumb it down for me.
Sure.
Are there some like sample maps that you could send us that we might be able to include in our packet or, because
What I would like to do is do that, but I think we need to do it a little bit over time. I'd like some of your folks, like forest change. Now, there's a subject I think you all are interested in probably. Where is the forest changing? We can produce a series of maps that will show that. And that's a theme, that's what we call a theme. And so we can do that. You're interested in where the impervious materials are. We can give you a map that shows that. Give you a map of wetlands. We can bring all these individual themes out. Where's the current agriculture for this year? What is the current agriculture?
have you been corresponding with our Parks Director, Murphy Harrington?
Yes, I was on the Parks Committee 2 years ago, so I'm somewhat familiar with what you're doing, although not currently.
So the answer is no, I haven't, Mr. Reiser, been corresponding with Murphy Harrington.
Yeah.
Or her, you have, okay.
Yeah, and other members like Hob and other people like that on different committees. This is not strictly for parks, it's for everybody. Everybody, all the committees will be using it, I hope.
Question, does this tie in with the county GIS?
It can, yes, it doesn't have to, but it can. We got the same categories, but I will guess that our map will be more accurate. So I would say, if you want to compare them, it'd be an interesting comparison. But this is, and that's one of the things, you know the ground out here better than we do. Although we live here, so too, my partner and I'm a business partner. So we're familiar with this area and we could take you out, we could stand you outside the township hall, say, see, there's where the concrete apron ends, there's the grasses over there, there's a wetland out there. You'll say, yeah, it's okay. And that's how you'll test the accuracy and gain, confidence in what's there. And then you'll go on and use it in various amazing ways. Lots of people have done this kind of thing before, but not with data this good, so we're unique in that category.
Norm, can I ask a question? How is it different from GIS?
A GIS is a tool, it stores the data, retrieves it, makes maps. Remote sensing are the instruments that gather the data. You put them together and you have an information system that can do the modeling and things like that will allow you to get answers about questions or issues. For example, you say, what's the biodiversity of the different parks we've got? We can look at the different parks, and to a degree, as long as we can get some of the categories out, we can tell you what that is. You know, this is more diverse and it has more vegetation structural types than this area over here. Or where in the county or in the township are we missing something? Where is there very little biodiversity of a forest type, for example? Well, they might be in this corner or that corner, or something down there. And that's the kind of measurement we can give you, which is, I know it sounds a little spacey and stuff, but it's really not. People have been doing this for quite a while. I've been doing it since 1980, but with air photos. Now I can do it in a quarter of the time, or an eighth, a 32nd of the time that I used to do it. And with more detail and more accuracy, I think. So, I don't wanna, take too much time for your meeting, because I know it's important to get to your subject. But I'll be here after you wanna come over, we'll take a look at some of this stuff, and we will have many more sessions on that, just on this subject.
Thanks for coming. So Norm, you're saying this is being updated continuously? So it's not like an aerial photo is like you took it in
Yeah.
that year, that day. But this is.
There's, the data we have, because we started this 2 years ago, is 2022. Now, my guess is that we can, because we tried to make it something that's repeatable, we can do this extremely, well, relative to the way other people are doing it, cheap, let's put it that way. And so you could do it repeatedly. Now, we are a profit-making business, so we have to get something for our effort at some point. But it is possible, I think, that you could do this every 5 years, let's say, and then you could have a running estimate of what's going on. And one of the problems that we've had in the past with change detection is every time somebody does it, they use a different tool and a different increment and a different definition of what they're looking at. So none of our numbers compare.
Okay, I'm okay then. All right,
What?
good. Okay.
Someone's okay.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is give you one tool, a similar tool that you can use in all these different categories, and you can find out what it is by comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges.
It's like LPC would be, this would be really good for them. You know, if you're trying to buy different land, and what's, let's say you're looking at a certain parcel, what's that parcel, how unique is that parcel compared to other things, what we're looking at, so.
That I think is.
Okay, that's exciting. Thank you, Norm, for coming in.
And I think, where to plant trees and what kind. If we look to see where to plant trees,
Oh, yeah.
what kind.
Yeah, you can find out where our trees have been cut down, where our trees are missing, even places like, they're not, one of the things I was looking at is what you do lands, relaxation of taxes for keeping land in agriculture, right? How about keeping land and trees? If a guy said, okay, I know I'm gonna, 50 years from now, I'm gonna build condos or something here, but I'm not gonna do anything in the meantime. Maybe you could say, well, we'll give you a little incentive to keep it in trees rather than doing something else with it. And maybe that puts trees in a part of the township that you need trees, that you don't have that kind of tree quality that you would like to have. And then you could plant quality trees and now they're gonna be there for a given amount of time or something. I don't know, it's just an idea we had, given because I know there's this tree issue of planting trees. So, maybe that's the way you can do it. There might be other models you could use to do that. There's no limit on the models that you can use. So dream on, come up with some good ideas and we'll put them to work.
All right, thank you.
That's great, Norm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, next item is public comment, like somehow should get, but anyways, this is an opportunity.
Before, can we just, introduce Taylor?
Sure.
Or no?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Dave, do you want to just come up for a second?
Sure.
Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? Just to put some, so Patrick will be stepping away from Parks. Is that what I understand?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. December is my last one.
Okay, and so Dave Crockett is going to be taking that seat from what I understand, and he is here to kind of see how the ball rolls. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, that might be nice.
Sure, yeah, so my name is Dave Crockett. I'm a fairly new but fairly active township resident. I'm recently retired, so I have a little time to do things. So I'm a NAP for the city NAP Park Steward. I'm a county park steward. I do prescriptive burns. I would be burning at the Botanical Gardens right now if it wasn't for this very meeting. And I have a vested interest in, you know, I'm doing everything I can to promote my little pieces of the natural areas. I look forward to being able to be on that committee and have a little wider scope, a little more township scope, as just opposed to my couple of areas that I really focus on right now.
But you moved into my neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to place your face, because I sort of remember meeting you.
Yeah, we were by the new stream.
By the Eagles.
Yes, by the Eagles,
Okay.
which is somewhere we won't talk about.
Welcome. So he'll be starting, you'll be here in December, but you're then in January. Is that when your term, or is this your last meeting or?
No, December would be my last.
Okay, last meeting. So then you'll start in January.
So I'll be here in December, and I already know I won't be here in January, so I thought I would get the first couple, I'll have the next couple back here.
Okay,
And I'll miss my very first one, but I'll be here after that.
okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice meeting all you sort of, and I'll look forward to, you know, better relationships.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, David.
All right, now we'll go to public comment. This is the time for members of the public can speak up to 3 minutes on any matter. Preview of Parks, Pathways, and Preserves. But this time we usually take people in the audience if you want to speak now. So anyone want to speak during public comment in the audience? I guess not. Chris, anyone?
Yeah, we have, John Boyd, who's got his hand raised.
Okay.
Oh, it's actually Pam Boyd. I'm at John's
Oh, okay.
here this afternoon. Pam Boyd, Scio resident. First, I want to thank Norm for his passion and the hours of work he has done on this project. His work on this is quite an asset for our township. And it's just been awesome to watch him comment on this over the last at least year or so. Rita, I also want to thank you for your parks overview that you gave at the DDA on Tuesday. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Liz is here, so note that in the minutes.
Okay, got it.
I'm no.
No other hands are raised.
Okay.
No other. All right, moving on, item F is approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I don't think we have the-
Actually, do we have the minutes?
No,
No,
Oh, because Heather.
so
Heather wasn't here and I forgot.
We can do the next meeting.
I will do them for the next one.
Okay. All right,
That's why I'm typing them this time instead of writing them down.
okay. Let's go to reports. Update parks, township parks.
I will start.
And
I guess
Jen.
I'll be, yeah, I can do that. Okay. Have lots going on. So to start, update you all, you may or may not already know that last night at the BOT, we proposed the completion of the external bathrooms outside of Township Hall to service Township Hall Park. And that was approved. So we'll be moving forward with that. We spoke with, Chris spoke with Phoenix today, and it's looking like about 12 weeks
6 to 12 weeks. It's gonna depend on the permitting process.
Yeah. before that gets started. And then continuing on with Township Hall Park. We haven't moved forward with the playground yet because we need to have the net climber here before the MRC is willing to excavate, just because they don't want to leave an open pit. But unfortunately, on Monday, I received an email from that company saying that they're about 3 weeks behind. So we're looking at 3 to 4 more weeks before we can even contact MRC to begin excavating. So it's going to be a while. I've let Brandon know, the Eagle Scout. He's infinitely patient, so.
Yes.
So that's where that is standing right now. In general, with moving forward with the paving outside of Township Hall, it's part of OHM's ultimate goal of making the loop around the park ADA accessible because of a number of things that are up in the air in terms of improvements and additions to Township Hall. We're probably not gonna move forward with that yet. I have to put it on hold until we figure out, because we want to put in a sidewalk and then have to tear it up. So once we have more definitive understanding of what's going on there, then we can for sure do the sidewalk. And then in terms of the pathway, I haven't had any updates from OHM about when they're gonna start. Or not when they're gonna start, because they're gonna start in the spring. But just no updates about that yet. What else?
We got the
Oh, yeah,
wayfinding signs.
yes,
Parks and Pathways was approved last night at the Board of Trustee meeting also. So you'll see entrance signs, that indicate for traffic like between 250 and 500 feet in both directions, where our parks and preserves are located, the entrance.
very exciting. And
Like you're
then,
driving down Zeeb Road, you're driving down Marshall, or whatever road.
Township Hall Park,
Exactly.
right out here.
Yeah, Zeeb Road, so then people know there's a park here. Or there's,
Excellent.
some will say parks and some will say preserve, depending on what type of facility it is, so, yeah.
and Chris and I have been doing a lot of work in the Township Hall Park meadow field area to get the invasives cut down and treated that way. You know, it's just part of the ongoing process of prepping the site for more playground equipment in the future. Took down a couple of larger trees, just to help cut back on costs and prepping the site. I wrote everything down, but I forgot it. Other things I need to talk about. Fan curler, so the burn is still going, planned for the spring for fan curler. And the burn break has been partially completed. We still have about half of it to go. And we have ongoing prep at the site outside of the burn break, like removing the invasive species, the larger shrubs. That way the burn can be more effective once it happens. And that's something, we have plenty of time to get that going and finished. And other parks. Not much shaking at the other parks. Good and bad. I think a lot of our focused time has been spent on the bathrooms in Township Hall Park. But I have been doing a little bit of trying to figure out long-term management plans in terms of just like natural areas restoration for West Scio Preserve. And I've been out there doing some invasive species clearing, but it's hard to do with just one person. Chris helps me a lot, but when, he's not here. Oh, the metal, yes. So, Steve and Rita and I were out at West Scio Preserve. I think you all got the email, so you already know, but we did the metal cleanup out there. We got an entire trailer full. We probably have 4 or 5 trailer loads to go. So it's gonna be a lot, but we were able to take the scrap to, what is that place called? Razorback, and they took it all. And then they actually reimbursed us for the metal, which then we gave it to Donna to put towards parks, so. Very excited.
We had like $55.
$55, yeah.
So you picked up trash, you got $55, and they bought it back from you. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So is the dump area, is it just at the end there in the parking lot? Are people just going in there?
No, this is old farm equipment
Oh,
and it's
okay.
just off Moosoff Lane. So if you follow it down, that's kind of right off Moosoff Lane is where some of it is. I spoke with one of the residents that lives off Moosoff Lane and he said that when he was clearing his own forested area, they had a lot of farm scrap metal. He was also excited to hear that we were picking it up.
Are you gonna need a crane or some mechanical assistance to pick up some of these things?
I don't think so. I think we can manage it.
Oh.
Some of it is gonna
It'll
be,
require finesse.
some of it is it's either really heavy or really buried or both.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
big.
saw when I was
And
there.
so, yeah, it's.
Geo crane?
I have a little Kubota with a front end loader that can pick up about 600 pounds.
I think we
which is
need the
more than I can
incredible
pick up.
Hulk.
How much did you say there was that you've removed and that you have to? remove?
About a trailer load
Okay.
and then probably about 5 trailer loads to go.
To go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say,
Wow.
do you think that's about accurate? So much of it is buried and even I wasn't expecting to have to take more than a day to do it. And
We'll bring something to get more leverage against the stuff stuck in the ground
Yeah.
next time.
yes,
Like
you
a boat-
know,
like a boat
things like,
tractor.
yeah,
Right, seriously, yeah, the tractor could get back there, it could do more than a human.
yeah, definitely.
The good news is close to use off range. The bad news is it's still tricky to get back
It's not,
where.
it's
it
not
does.
right on the road, is it?
No,
No,
From my recollection, from where I saw some stuff, it wouldn't be easy to drive a tractor back there.
Yeah, how wet is it or how dry is it?
it's completely dry right now.
It's
So-
It hasn't rained in, yeah,
Not yet.
3 months, so it's dry. The next spring might not be ideal.
No, so I'm planning on doing another volunteer day soon.
Okay.
To keep the momentum going, so. Keep your calendars open.
So, okay, yeah, if we do a trailer a month.
I think that'd be great, I
Have we
really
done it
do.
in 5 months?
That way we're not,
6.
you know, pushing it too much.
Did we get 2 bathrooms approved?
No, just
No.
one,
Okay.
yeah,
It's a victory, Steve.
indeed.
It's a victory.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a very busy spot.
I know, that's what I was hoping we could get to, but, okay.
Nothing else for parks, planning,
Oh, may I mention one more thing? Sorry.
yes, you may.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yep.
Our steward, John Hocking, whose last day is this upcoming Friday. So we'll be without stewards. We're gonna, Aurora and I are gonna be working together to re-envision the job description for the stewards in the future and hopefully make it a little bit more appealing, maybe for students from Eastern and U of M that are on summer break. So maybe get some more like ecologically trained people out here so that we can put a little oomph into our summers, so.
Okay.
Not that you guys haven't in the past, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh.
I just mean, I think it'll be,
Oh.
be good.
Okay. Planning,
Yeah, big meeting coming up on the 19th. There's going to be there's gonna be a possible rezoning from office to C4 commercial for Blue Lion Fitness. And Blue Lion Fitness is gonna be, I believe that's the basketball. I wanna make sure I got it right here. I will reduce this to writing and send it out.
Okay.
You guys, I'll do my written, usual written report for both planning and both BOT. So look for that.
Okay.
Private sports performance facility requesting conditional rezoning. So I'll give you the details of that when it comes up. That meeting's on Monday. We had a meeting last night at the Board of Trustees, and I'll send you something in writing on that. They approved a couple things that had been in front of the Planning Commission before, and that's the Maxi cell tower, which is the cell tower in Delhi, new cell tower to try to deal with the coverage lapses that they have. Also a conditional use permit for a daycare facility at Community Church Daycare, which is the old Galvin, right, at
24-2.
yeah, 242, yeah, 242, and on Wagner Road there. You talked a little bit about it yesterday, or maybe it was you, Murphy, about Parks and Preserve entrance signs. And that those are there, and that was on the agenda last night on the consent agenda. One of the big things from this committee's perspective, Murphy already spoke about, and that's the installation, finishing the bathroom, one of the 2 bathrooms out there. They also funded the approval of upgrading the bathrooms on the inside, 3 of those. By that, I'm talking floor tile, sinks, faucets, countertops, painting for the public restrooms inside. We heard a presentation from a guy named Caleb Klein, who's a professional engineer consultant regarding what to do about the HVAC in Scio Township, and do you put a traditional, do you replace it with, kind of what's there now, or do you go to something else, a geothermal, which involves drilling down into the earth and trenching and things like that, and that would be out behind us. And you go with geothermal. Decisions weren't made. It's a multi-year, quite an expensive proposition, replacing it, getting it off the roof and putting it kind of underground from the geothermal. So that's something we just heard a presentation on. More to follow on that. Stay tuned. One of the things that came up last night and at the meeting before was the reimbursement for Scio Township officials who have had to retain attorneys when they have been the subject of investigations or charges, and that it's called indemnification. There's a Scio Township ordinance that addresses that, and there's also a state law that deals with indemnification, and those passed at the last meeting and at last night's meeting, and they for the trustee Carey, soon to be supervisor Carey, as well as former deputy treasurer Sandy Egler. Those were not without controversy, but they both passed, and that's all I'll say to report on that. And I'll also I'll put that in writing and send it out to you folks.
Excellent.
And also at the planning commission, the Many Hands project is going to be coming forward as well. The Many Hands Living Community preliminary PUD for an adult life sharing community. There's going to be public hearings related to that Monday at 7 o'clock. And again, I'll report that out in a written report to you folks.
Thanks, John. Any questions?
Yeah, John, at the BOT meeting, when the subject of the Township Hall Park bathrooms came up, was there a request for two or a request for one? Do you recall?
There was a request for one.
Okay, so it didn't get knocked down from two, it was only asked for one.
As part of the geothermal, it's looking like that may be some type of a maintenance room for the geothermal. So if they go that direction, that's what the other one would be used for.
Do we have a plan B on, well, I'll say if and when, but I'm quite certain if everything goes the way we want it to with this park and it becomes very popular, what we're gonna do about a second bathroom?
I don't think there's been discussions yet.
The only thing that was sort of proposed as an alternative to getting this one bathroom was to extend utilities out into the park itself. And after speaking with another employee today about the cost that would be associated with that, we're looking at probably close to $1 million.
You mean instead of using half of the existing structure for the geothermal? Is that what you mean by
No, I mean, like,
utilities?
if we were to independently, because we were never gonna, and frankly, we were not gonna get to approved.
How do we know that though?
Steve, we were lucky to get one. You should probably move
Yeah.
on to the next topic.
Well, okay, John.
No, I don't mean
You
to
know,
be short, but
okay.
it was not unanimous at all yesterday, and it was a controversial item that we should knock on wood that it got passed.
Well, okay, I guess if that's the way you wanna look at it. I don't look at it that way. I think it's short-sighted, frankly. If somebody was against it, I'd like to really know why.
But the big picture, the board has different priorities.
Okay.
They're concerned about, obviously, the geothermal, they're concerned about, is there gonna be vandalism, they're gonna be,
Okay.
is it gonna get used? It's quite an expensive proposition, it's $30,000 to put in one bathroom,
Okay.
which, it's a commercial bathroom or it's a municipal bathroom. And then who's gonna clean it, who's gonna maintain it, who's gonna close it down, or
John, listen, I understand that there are all those features that go
And I
along with it,
support
but
it.
the real
I
cost,
support it.
okay, fine. All I'm saying is, I think the real cost is 1 and 2, so 30 plus 30. That's not an insignificant amount of money. I'm not saying it's pocket change, but the rest of what you're talking about okay, if you're gonna lock one door, you're standing right there to lock the next, vandalism more or less taken care of. If you're gonna clean one bathroom, you gotta walk 3 steps to clean another one. I don't know, you're talking about very minor incremental cost to handle a second bathroom. Now, if it turns out that that second bathroom is so instrumental in like geothermal or some other thing that just can only be put there, well, all right, I guess so. But it's already there, it's already basically been invested in. And we're gonna need a second bathroom, okay, fine, it might take a couple of years, but it's not gonna cost $30,000 in a couple of years, it'll cost $50,000 or $60,000 to make one bathroom in the foreseeable future. And I just think it's short-sighted to only go for one, so, okay,
I would
there we
like to
go.
say, I don't disagree with you.
Uh-huh.
It is short-sighted.
Mhm.
We need 2 bathrooms.
Mhm.
That is very
We don't need
obvious.
them tomorrow, and I know
No,
that, but we.
but as
Yeah.
traffic increases, we need another bathroom and we, I'm just gonna be honest, we weren't gonna get approved for 2. The cost is too high, but
Okay.
I will say, this geothermal has not been approved.
Mhm.
And if it continues that it was not gonna get approved, that bathroom space is still open. We do have the architectural plans already drawn up for a second one.
Okay.
So moving forward and just proposing it a second time, ultimately we'd be paying the same price for it both now. You know what I mean? We're literally just paying half the cost. So if we were
Yeah.
to then propose another $30,000 bathroom,
Right, and again, okay, fine, but if you're a contractor and you can put in 2 bathrooms that are 2 feet apart from each other, I think you're gonna get a little bit of a break on 30 and 30, it might be 50 for both, you know, that kind of.
Is there really a need for 2? We don't,
John, no, not tomorrow, no, of course not, but if our plans are to have this park be used in the way that we think it should be and will be, and that's why we're spending all this time and energy to try and improve this park. What do you think? In a year from now, maybe even if it's 2, it'll be there and done. That's my point.
that's not lost on anyone.
Okay.
I'm just saying
Well,
there
apparently
wasn't-
it is.
There wasn't
it's not
support.
lost on anyone sitting.
No, okay, right, and I'm not, this is not an argument with anybody here, it's just for whoever it is out in the ether that had some reason to say, no, that's unreasonable. I think that's ridiculous. So, okay, there we go.
Your point is
Thank
taken.
you.
It sounds like the door's not shut for the second one. Well, at least we got the first
It's not.
one, so
It's not.
depends on where the geothermal, and the geothermal could be a year or 2 process, I wouldn't be
And
surprised.
if there's any finessing that's to be done to convince them to maybe house the geothermal separately or in a different location, I would love to speak to that and try to push that option. Because I agree.
Yeah, no,
It's there, it's plumbed, it should be 2.
so I'm not arguing with anybody on
All
this
right.
committee at all, so here we go.
Okay, we'll move on.
All right.
All right, land preservation, Liz?
Land preservation, we meet tomorrow.
Okay.
Again, this is from our last meeting, we have recommended to the board that our consultant's contract be renewed. That expires at the end of the year. The board has not taken action on that yet. So we're hoping that will happen soon. We continue to work with federal and state funding partners to obtain funding for the projects that are in progress. And we still have an open seat, Will Weber's open seat. So if you know anyone who is interested in serving on Land Preservation Commission, please ask them to apply through the township website. We would be really happy to fill that seat.
Any questions for Liz? I think that's all on reports. Moving item H, unfinished business, Scio Flyers contract.
Wait, well, let's here to do DDA.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
okay, sorry, well, go ahead.
So the Downtown Development Authority met yesterday, Tuesday, off schedule because of the holiday. I guess the key thing I would convey is there was a discussion, a presentation by Clerk Flintoff to the DDA board about DDA working more closely with the Township Board of Trustees through the capital improvement budgeting process. The DDA every year produces its own budget, which is then approved by the Board of Trustees. But this would be sort of bringing them more into alignment with the Board of Trustees' sort of larger goals in terms of capital improvement. The DDA board has a majority of its members' appointments expiring at the end of January. And I think it's pretty obvious there's going to be some turnover there. So the members of the board are going to change, and I think the DDA is overdue for, well, it's not just me thinking, the DDA is overdue for a revision of its plan. I don't know how much you folks know about how downtown development authorities work, but they capture a portion of the incremental increase in taxes within their defined district. And the district for Scio Township's DDA runs roughly along the Jackson Road corridor, and expands out to the north and south of Jackson Road. So there are some areas within the DDA district that are sort of overlap with things that this group provides advice and guidance to the board on, including a portion, for example, of the West Scio preserves, but also obviously the Township Hall Park, which is how the DDA in the PPP committee came to be in a conversation about Township Hall Park. So if something is in the DDA plan, then the DDA can budget for and spend money on it. And in order to be in here, it has to be something within the DDA district. So I want to bring that up because I think that's going to be coming up sometime in the near future. And if this group wants to work together with the DDA going forward, then it's important for the DDA's plan to include whatever items you might collaborate on. So that's one reason to talk with the DDA. The other thing I wanted to say is the budget process as it proceeds, I think it's pretty clear that it's important to for this group also to think about what you want to have as your goals going forward, because you want to have it in the budget. This is I just pulled this section from last year's budget, and it's pretty sketchy in a way in terms of the parks and pathways goals. I think to the degree that you guys can think ahead and be specific about what you want to accomplish, that will enable you to make more progress during each fiscal year. You've got kind of a construction season in which to work. I know you guys are familiar with this. Certainly, Roy is very familiar with construction seasons. But if you can get it in this budget, align with the DDA's plan and partner with them where appropriate on their goals, I think there's a potential for a much more sort of rapid movement forward. Specifically with the DDA, a thing to bear in mind is that of the millages that they capture incremental financing or incremental revenue from, parks and pathways millage is one of those. And it's their norm, or it has been their norm in the past, to try and use the funds that they capture from specific millages on projects that are sort of related to the mission of those millages. So in the example of parks and pathways, they capture, I don't know how much a year, say $100,000 a year from that millage. And they, with help from this group, could target that towards different things that would align with what you're trying to accomplish. So for example, if you're trying to put a pathway segment that crosses, that is within the DDA district, that could be something that you would focus on as one of the projects. Or if it's improvements to Township Hall Park, that would fit within that definition of the district. So, sorry, that was kind of a ramble, but I wish you luck. This is that was my last DDA meeting. Going forward, the ordinance has the supervisor as, I believe, the CEO of the DDA. So it'll be Jillian going forward who will be in that position with the DDA. So if you wanted someone to come and report, you going forward, you want to talk to Jillian.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just curious in the plan that you're talking about, the DDA's plan, and trying to coordinate with them on projects that, you know, we've sort of tried that already. And I'm not sure how, are you suggesting that there's a different path than the one that we already worked? I don't mean path, of course, in the sense of.
No, I know what you meant.
That didn't quite seem to work out too well when we first tried. I
Well,
would certainly be interested in trying again, but is there something different about this plan that would make it easier to collaborate?
Well, so this plan, the last time the DDA plan was updated was 2006. Long time ago, many, turnovers of boards of trustees and DDA boards ago. It happened to include references to parks. So what it allowed is for the DDA to consider parks related projects for expenditure. So the criteria for the DDA, it has to be in their plan. And in order to be in the plan, it has to be something within the DDA district. So there was a possibility for collaboration, but then it's all contingent on decisions by the people who are serving on the DDA board. So the first thing to do is to make sure that whatever it is that you hope to partner with the DDA on is in their plan. And then to work with the folks who were on the DDA board so that they will, work with you and approve whatever the expenditures are. I think that's where we hit a snag with the existing DDA board, is that there just wasn't enough kind of shared sense of movement forward.
So you're saying that the plan is being rewritten and therefore we need to at least have what we already have in this plan, if not more focused and or specific in some way to help have that working together actually work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's sort of different pieces of the puzzle that all have to sort of fit together in order for you to
When would you suggest then that if we're going to come up with something that we have a due date of?
I don't know, because basically for whatever reason, we worked on this revision of this plan on and off for years, and we still didn't get it done. So the incoming DDA board, I'm assuming will be different. I think that's a safe assumption. And I'm guessing that one of the first things that they will do is to look at this unfinished revision of the almost, 20-year-old report or plan and update it. I mean, this was an effort in 2006 to look ahead and to try and, come up with a broader range of goals for the DDA. But it just, for whatever reason, it didn't really take off, but it did include references to parks, which allowed us to at least sort of take some steps in that direction.
And is that plan on the website?
I believe so, but I'm trying to clean up my office, so I'm happy to leave this with you. It's got some notes from me in the margins. I don't know if that would be helpful or not, but I'll leave that with you and.
Take your recycling.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that the intent here is that the DDA and parks would collaborate, but in such a way that they would actually discuss and hopefully come to something together. It's not like the DDA saying, we're doing this and you're paying for it. Or we're doing this and we're paying.
Yeah.
But I don't understand, because I think that was part of the
That was
conundrum here.
we had a.
So, okay, we'll just work.
Without
We'll take it out down the road.
Yeah, briefing or whatever, the whole sort of way that went or didn't go, I would say yes, that it's about discussing with members of the DDA board sort of reaching, a common understanding, a sort of alignment of goals. And I think, doing that in the context of the revision of the plan makes sense. Because then, the plan is that much more effective, because of the alignment between groups. I mean, when this was created in 2006, there was no Parks, Preserves and Pathways Committee. There was no Parks and Pathways Millage. So it's a very different circumstance. There's an opportunity for partnership that didn't exist back then. So I think in some ways, the fact that this even mentions parks is kind of remarkable. But it is an outdated plan, and I expect that the new members of the DDA board, when they get together early next year, will be revising it. But the budget process is going to occur before then. And so I think that's probably the first thing to pay attention to, is to think about the capital improvement budget and the regular budget for parks and pathways. One of the things that you might want to think about is the DDA paid for sidewalks along the length of Jackson back, I think in the 1980s is when that project began. So a lot of those sidewalks are starting to wear out. And they're regular 5-foot width sidewalks. And if this group wanted to try and make that the replacement of those sidewalks more compatible with the sort of pathway network, there might be an opportunity to advocate for sort of widening the sidewalks, which actually the Lithia project is already sort of doing on its own, to an 8-foot wide pathway. And then it would really make it for a more sort of robust part of the pathway network. That's one thing to think about.
Well, we got a lot going, so we probably, also, I'm sorry, Jillian, if you want to talk about roads, Jillian, I forgot you here, so you have anything on roads update?
We're having a meeting at 6:30.
So I want to stick around and get real into the details.
There's, right now, we're just working on a special assessment policy for road improvements, but it's a downtime for us at this point.
Yeah.
Jackson Road is, construction's over. Yeah, everybody knows that. Park and Stabler, that's the other, that will be shut down all winter. Just, yeah, don't go that way.
Can't get there if you wanted to, so yeah.
Turn around.
Okay. All right, so now we'll move on to item H, unfinished business Scio flyers contract. Do an update on that?
Yes, so I and Jim Hartwell met with Mariah Fink probably 3 or 4 weeks ago to discuss the way that the Flyers lease agreement was structured, partially because over the last couple of years, they've just been doing 1-year extensions on their previous lease. And a little bit of the way that it's worded just isn't appropriate any longer and puts undue burden on them. For example, in their current lease, it says that they're responsible for all litter throughout the entire park, which is not fair because they don't have exclusive rights to access the park. They utilize that space for their particular purpose, but it's never been restricted. So the public is always welcome to go in there even when the Flyers are flying. So examples like that, just things that take off their plate. And they also are responsible for mowing, which, considering that we're going to be allowing other organizations to request use of that space, that is still in compliance with basically keeping the field in the same quality that it is now. It's not appropriate to ask them to fund the mowing anymore. So things like that, and then we're putting more specific wording in there to allow them to continue to have temporary structures like their pavilion and their porta-john and the shed that they use, and it's pretty similar the way it's going to be structured is similar in that we, as the township, still have the right to revoke access to those things at any time or ask them to remove them within some sort of like notice. One of the biggest differences is going to be, after speaking with Mariah last night, we're actually just gonna move away from having a lease at all because they're not really leasing it. It's more of just an agreement of what their conduct is going to be like while they're using that space. So a lease doesn't really make sense anymore. It's something I actually still need to speak with Jim about. He's been great about communicating and being really flexible with us. So I think that he'll see the benefit in structuring it this way instead as well. And yes. Am I missing anything? Oh, one of the big changes is that they're going to be proposing an annual schedule of the dates and times that they are going to be out there using the field, which just allows us the opportunity to let other organizations use the field when the Scio Flyers aren't. And it goes both ways so that if they want to propose more times, they need to give us 2 weeks notice. And if they don't give us 2 weeks notice, we have the right to refuse that time slot that they're requesting. And if the township wants to use that space at the time that they've already requested, we also have to give them notice. So it's just a little bit more fairness all around, and I think that it'll make for a good relationship in the future. And Jim has been really, what am I trying to say? Jim and I have had a really constructive conversation about how we want to partner in the future. And like I said, we're going to be doing the model building. No, wait, did I say that here? I said at the managers meeting. We're going to be collaborating about doing a model building in January. The Flyers are going to be actually doing the event, but we're going to be helping promote the event so that Scio residents are more aware of it happening. And we're also looking at events where they talk about the history of aviation and just more ways to get more members of the community involved and know that this is out here because it is really unique. We have a really unique group out here, and I want to continue to make sure that they feel welcome and that other organizations understand that it's not the Scio Flyers field, it's Township Hall Park. And if they feel that they have an appropriate use for the space, that they're also welcome to put in an offer.
I'm glad you're updating that. Appreciate it. I mean, I think it was just an old lease that just kept getting extended and extended. It's like, glad you go back, take a look at it. So thank you.
So one question, are the Flyers okay without having a lease at all? Because then they have no rights under a lease.
It's
Or
so,
is that not an issue at this point?
it's just, it's not a lease because of the fact that other organizations are going to be welcome to use that space.
Right.
So
But the lease could provide for that probably, right? A lease could provide for that.
Or is it a written agreement?
it's still an agreement. It's gonna be a written contract agreement.
Oh, there is a written contract.
Yes, it's gonna be a.
Okay, I
it's going to
thought
be a
you meant
contract.
there is gonna be some sort of agreement that it
Yes.
is
Memo of
enforceable.
understanding, but it's based on the recommendation of our attorney.
Yes.
Right, got that.
So if that's what if they say it should be a memo of understanding, or if they should be this or that, then I would defer to them on that, and yeah.
Okay, my understanding was that you're saying there wouldn't be anything.
No, it'll still be written. That's why we're outlining all of these particulars so that it's written out. We sign it, they sign it, and
Very good.
we're all in understanding. But actually, it would be interesting, John.
Oh, I'm listening.
Okay, sorry. Is there a difference, just not that, that's not a question, but the difference that Mariah was explaining that between a lease agreement for this space and just an agreement of use?
Memo, right.
What is the difference in terms of protection for the township or for the Flyers?
Well, I'm not gonna supplant her legal advice on that, but legal advice, if.
I can ask
like a
her
lead-
too, that's fine.
Yeah, I would defer to her
Okay.
on matters regarding what she's advising us on. You
Okay.
know, like whether there's a consideration, whether a lease is, subject to Michigan law with respect to leases and evictions and things like that. And if she feels that this is a better vehicle to protect the township's interest, I would defer to her on that. And there must be a reason she thinks that this is a better vehicle for firming up the relationship and the obligations and the responsibilities, then, you know, I'd go with that one.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask her the same question, just for my own like clarity, but.
And she might
to
not want
understand
that
where
asked in a
she's-
public forum.
Pardon?
She might not want that asked in a public forum.
I understand. Apologies.
No, that's all right.
There is, it does sound as if the flyers are providing, we're talking about them providing certain benefits to the township, so I hope that any agreement will reflect that and not minimize their contributions.
That is the ultimate goal.
There was a mention of a 2-week lag time on event scheduling, and would there still be the opportunity for the township to, if there's something that we might want to plan months ahead of time, to be able to reserve that and have it be a solid reserve?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
It's not like it goes both ways. So if we're planning a special event out there, we just need flyers. Next week, we're having something all week long, whatever that event is. So that's it.
Sort of an eminent domain thing.
So, all right, well, thank you for that update. I guess next item is Baker Holdings arsenic remediation. Dave Lutton's here. Anything else? Do we need to introduce them on anything else or let them turn it over to them?
I think everyone knows the
Yep.
backstory, so, yeah.
Welcome
Have
back.
at it.
Thanks. I'm Dave Lutton, Township resident. I'm the owner, and I am the only member of Baker Road Land Holdings LLC. We own the 245 acres approximately known locally as the Sloan Kingsley property. You mentioned Fort Cat, John Heiser has many hands, will be in front of the Scio Planning Commission involving 87 of the 245 acres. We're here today to talk about the arsenic mitigation effort on 21 of the approximately 110 acres that we have an application into the LPC for permanent preservation. And we're trying to clear up the arsenic. It's why you have the Sloan Preserve with a missing middle. We're the middle, and it wasn't purchased originally because of arsenic presence in the land. So we've begun the cleanup effort, and I'm here today with Tom Covert from Midwestern Consulting. He's the engineer for the entire Sloan Kingsley Baker Road landholding project, and Lou Stoltz with AKT Peerless Environmental Engineers. And I'm gonna shut up and let Lou tell you what we're doing about the arsenic at this point.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lou Stoltz, and I'm with AKT Peerless. Disclosure, Tom and I used to work together back in the days at Atwell for a long time. So we go back a long way. Done a lot of work in Washtenaw County and Livingston County, my company. So as Dave mentioned, what we did is the field work we've managed to complete now. We had to go out there and prep the site just to even get through the site because it is so thick with growth. So it took a little longer than what we had anticipated to do that. And then we were able to go out and collect our samples. Originally, we were looking to do it with one of our track mounted rigs, but it would have cost even more money to create pathways for that. And in the process of doing that, we would have been cutting down, more trees and making additional pathways just to get to the sample locations. So we decided to change all that, and we just did it all manually. And that's why it took a little longer also, because I had 4 people out there for a week to collect the samples. And, we didn't really do anything to the actual ground. We didn't, cause any other issues other than to just collect those. So those samples were done. They were turned into the laboratory. We're starting to get partial results back. And I expect to have all the results in by the end of next week, at which time then we will continue on and we'll start to write the actual report. What I provided was just a summary, kind of a summary update of a quick down and dirty of some of the history that went on before we were involved, that what brought this, I guess, to the point of where it is today. Investigations that were conducted in 2003, I think again in 2010, both by Atwell Hicks. There were others that were involved out there as well. ASTI, I think, performed a phase one for another entity. There were proposals that were provided by Manick and Smith. And so from that data, a lot of which was incomplete, we were able to get a good idea of what went on. So historically, going back probably to the late 60s and the early 70s, when they were building 94 and the Baker Road exit in this area, or in part of this area, gravel and sand was discovered, which often happens when they're building things like that. They're looking for local areas to get those materials. And they used this area for some of that. So they were trucking sand in and out, and other things were brought in. There were also uses out there in the past well, Lotus is out there now. It's like a, an improvement. What's the word I'm looking for?
Landscaper.
Yeah, landscaper, yeah. Oh my God. But there were other folks there before them also that occupied that facility. So while there was some use of the property, for the most part, it remained vacant. And we think it's from those limited uses where the arsenic, especially in the southern portion of the site, originated from. You're also going to have naturally occurring arsenic because it's a metal and it happens everywhere, especially in Michigan here. So what we had to do, we had to go out and we took a statistical approach, and that figure that I provided you also has these areas that we sampled. And we based that off of a lot of samples that were collected by Atwell Hicks in 2003 and 2010, where they found arsenic contamination. And contamination meaning values over residential criteria. Residential criteria is the most restrictive. And when the state started their brownfield program years ago, and they allowed you to do a baseline environmental assessment, one of the things that triggers that report is if you do an investigation and you have data that shows that you're above residential criteria, it basically makes the site a facility, and then that allows an incoming purchaser the opportunity to do a baseline environmental assessment, which then, tells everyone that that's how you found the property when you moved in, that you didn't create that contamination. So there are values out there, obviously, that are over residential. What I can tell you so far from just the limited samples I've seen come back in the northern decision unit, which is DU2, that whole upper area never had anything going on with any of these operations. And Atwell never found anything up there that was above residential criteria, and the early results that we're having corroborate that. So that whole northern half of the property right now is probably not going to have any issues whatsoever. The southern half of the property, we still don't have all that data back. That's what I'll be getting next week. And then what we'll do is we'll put a report together. We'll provide that to Dave. Dave's our client. And then Dave will probably share that with you. And then we can go from there as far as what the results show and what we do. Now, I understand in talking to Murphy, you're looking to put probably pathways through there, walking pathways, just like you have around there. It would be good to know eventually where those pathways might be, even if it's a, something that's, not etched in stone yet, because then you can kind of get a better idea of how that might dovetail with what type of contamination values we're seeing. And then before you build the pathways, if it's something as simple as moving a pathway, it's a lot easier than once you've built
Yes,
it.
no, I'll correct him. Thank you. So I just want to say, that when we were speaking earlier, your question, when I was asking about the depth of the
Right.
contamination, your response was to say that if trails were put there, that would be the reason for being worried about contamination at 1 foot or 2 foot. At no point did I say that if we were to purchase that, or that would become an issue that we would have trails there. I just want to clarify that. That was not. I just want to make sure that there's clarity on why that a trail was the example given.
Well, I would, to add to that, then
Because we don't own the land and can't put trails on land we don't own.
Correct. I didn't, yeah, I meant like down the road, if you purchase the land or whatever, agreement you enter into. I'm assuming if you purchase it, you're going to do something with it, right? In terms of maybe trails or not, that's up to you. But why I'm looking at this and why I'm saying that is that if you put trails in, or if whomever may put trails in, there are ways that ahead of time, if we know their locations, if we happen to go through an area of contamination that may have to be removed, right, in order to put the trail in, we'll know that ahead of time because we'll know that's where the trail is intended to go. And then that, you might save some money, you might be able to move the trail, or you might be able to just remove contaminated soil if it's necessary. Those are just options down the line, and we're just supposing right now, because I don't even have the results back.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, just have to do this before we get too far away. So am I hearing that, there would be a chance that we would have to test again to see if I'm not sure that we even want to buy this property, but if we did, and we wanted to put trails there, we would have to come back and say, consult with you about where you left contamination. Am I going down the wrong trail here?
Well, the thing is, we don't really buy land anyways, it'd be LPC, that's what sort of like.
Well, it would be the board, it would be the
Ultimately,
board.
Board, but LPC.
After a recommendation from the LPC. And so this is a very preliminary discussion. We had talked about remediation of arsenic on the site. And this is a proposal for how to do that. I'm guessing the property owner would like to do it at the lowest cost possible, and that's why we're hearing what we're hearing today.
So like maybe until we get the final report, I mean, you're still getting information, you don't even have all the data, so it's sort of like, I want to spend a whole lot of time on.
And I think Mr. Stoltz is just talking about measuring what's there.
Right, no, I get it, right, but we're still, he doesn't even have all the information yet, right?
Exactly.
Just broadly speaking though, just out of curiosity, if there's remediation, okay, I won't use quotes. If there's remediation, there's different assessments of what remediation means. Does remediation mean it's all gone, or like remediation to a certain level is, let's say you dig down 3 feet, but it's 3 feet and lower, and that's called remediated? Is that a fair statement, something like that? And then therefore, if there's a trail, then you might want to go 4 feet down instead of 3, because that might interfere with what, a trail, or is that something like that?
Remediation is a broad term, and there's many forms of remediation.
Yeah.
And you can do remediation even that leaves contamination behind.
Yeah.
Because what you're interested in doing is bringing it down to a level
Right.
that it's safe, which doesn't necessarily mean that it all has to be removed or whatever. And I don't want to get ahead. All I'm saying really is you will always have options. We do this with every property we come across, right? And if what you intend to do there are trails, it really becomes a function of how deep or what do you have to do to prep for that trail. The more you have to cut out to put the trail in, then depending on how far you go down, does that touch or come close to what you're dealing with?
Do you mind if no, go ahead. I want to reroute the entire way that this conversation is going and completely remove this concept of the future of talking about what Scio Township might do in regards to what's happening with this piece of property. The reason that we were here today was to talk about the results of the soil samples and, which we don't have, and to hear about what you are doing in terms of remediation. That's all. We don't want to talk about the future and how what we might do will affect the way that remediation is done. Because what we're doing and what's happening with Baker Land Conserver land holdings are two separate things. So I just want to make sure that this is what we're here to talk about, is the results, which it sounds like we don't have, which is fine. But let's not talk about what ifs when that's just not, it's not appropriate to talk about it in terms of it being a park. Is that all right? Does that make
That's
sense?
correct.
Okay, that's how I like to route the
Right,
conversation.
it seems like at this point, we're a little premature,
And-
until they get the results. It seems like
And
we
I
should probably have them come
apologize.
Back when they get the results.
Yes, and I apologize because frankly, I misunderstood what the report was saying. I was under the impression that these were the samples that had been completed as of recently, and that's my misunderstanding. And frankly, I should have asked you to wait until you actually had the results to come in. So that's, and I apologize.
And I totally get what you're saying. I was actually only using the trail question because it was gonna help me better understand what they meant by remediation, that's all. I
Okay.
was trying to get to the same point that you are.
Okay.
But that was just helping me understand when he says that, well, what does that mean? It can mean a lot of things, so that's what I just learned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So do we want to have them come back at a
Yes,
future meeting?
I think that would be appropriate
I
because
expect we are going to come back. I'll make this comment. The vegetation, as Lou mentioned, is extremely thick on the property. Trails would be the highest use, most intense use of the property in a park if it becomes part of your park system, uniting the other parcels of the Sloan Preserve. The residential standard is for that. It's for people living there. It's for people occupying the property. That's never going to happen if the LPC and the board completes the purchase of this property. We'll be back when we have test results, and I guess maybe this whole appearance today was premature, given that we're not done yet, but we'll be back.
One comment, no one will be living on the property, that's true, but families, kids will be walking through there if it does happen that the township ends up buying the property pursuant to a recommendation from LPC. So it's not that people would not potentially be walking through that property. And that's where our concern would be.
Well, and I'm not saying that, although as we all get to know the property better, you might, and if you've decided you want to go ahead with the purchase, trail design might take this contaminated portion into account, which, as Lou can attest, is very densely vegetated at the moment. And again, arsenic is dangerous if you eat it. And if you come in physical contact with it, which most hikers, even children, are not likely to do, but we'll have all those discussions later on. We're on it, we'll be back, and I'm sorry we were premature with today's appearance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to item I, new business. First item is park and stabler pathway connection. Earlier, I guess, last month, was it September, October, September? Anyways, we walked, Murphy, Reed, and I, and Chris, and OHM. We walked the segment from Zeeb down to Cedar Ridge. If the OHM's looking at designing the remaining sections of Park Road, the road project, but separate from that is a potential trail project. So what we did is walked it, figured out, they had a preliminary alignment, figured out alignment that we could move it this way, we could save, this giant oak tree, move it this way, we can save this giant hickory tree. We did some of this, moving it in and out, just trying to figure out, what would be the best path forward if this project does move forward. And then we got down to the end, the western end at Cedar Ridge, and it's sort of like, we saw the work being done by the Trailwoods development. And the road project goes past Cedar Ridge Drive, but their trail project stops short. So when that project gets done, which obviously sounds like it's not gonna happen this fall, when it gets done next spring, next summer, next fall, whenever it gets done, their trail will not dead end at the property line. It won't connect to anything. So this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're gonna have a trail that people can't really use because it won't go anywhere. Because when it was designed, it was envisioned that, I don't know what was envisioned. But anyways, there's a gap of about 180 feet. We spoke with the contractor, E.T. McKinsey, who's doing the road and trail project. They would be willing to extend that at a cost, I think it's like $18,000 to extend it 180 feet. And it's like, this might be the opportunity to have them do that. If not, like I said, the trail they're building, will just stop. And there'll be dirt there. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I did send some pictures in. Are we able to pull any of those up, Chris?
The quote here, let me see if I can get pictures.
In your expertise is $18,000 a bargain, it sounds like it.
Yeah, it is. It's a good price. I mean,
Yeah.
they're out there.
Yeah.
It reminds me, we'll talk about the DDA. Probably in 1995, phase one of the DDA, the boulevard was built. DDA ran short on money. They said, oh, well, skip the sidewalks, right? We didn't have $100 and some thousand, $200,000. Came back later and added the sidewalks, it was double the cost.
Right.
So I mean, when you're out there, they got equipment to do another 180 feet, this is the time to do it. If you come back later, I guarantee you'll be double or triple this cost, because no one's wanting to come out and do 180 foot of pathway.
Right.
And it's hard to say when it would happen. So are you able to put?
We're logged in under Christie's account,
Oh.
so I don't wanna log us out
Okay,
and
that's
go
fine.
back into my.
Anyways, if you get a chance, you can get out there, we took some pictures when we were out there. But you can see this gap, it just makes sense, and like I said, they gave us a quote. We could, since it's really not an agenda item, we could bring it back next meeting, because obviously they're not gonna build this thing, this fall.
Yeah, it would. I would like to see a map.
Did you go park to what?
And the gap is from Cedar Ridge.
Oh, okay.
I can send you some pictures too.
Okay,
To where the Trailwoods stops.
okay.
If we want to move on this, how soon should we be bringing this to the board to propose? Paying this 18,000 to.
Well, since they're not gonna do the work until next, I mean, I think we can bring it back to the next meeting, in this meeting. And then, if there's interest in doing it here, if it passes, then we take it to the township board, then township board would have to act on it. So, I mean, the project's at a standstill, so they're not gonna do it this year. So as long as we get together and say, okay, and decide yes or no, if you wanna do it, it just seems, when you're out there, you see a path that's just gonna stop. It's like,
Goes into the new development, is that what you're
the
talking?
new development stops at the property line. It won't connect to it sort of reminds me of in the subdivision, uplands and all those that we connected those sidewalks. We'll have a development, and since the agreement wasn't for this development to do it, it'll just stop. And you won't be able to go from this neighborhood to that neighborhood. Versus if you connect them, even if the rest of Park Road never gets done to Z Road, at least in neighborhoods, you better walk between the two, which seems like it makes sense to do.
And the pathway would go to Park Road, is that right?
No, the part we're talking about is from Cedar Ridge Drive
I don't know where
to
that is.
west to where Trailwoods. I mean, we'll bring a map in.
Okay.
From an existing sub to.
Yeah, to the new subs. The two subs will be connected, right?
It's a lot.
Swan Park Road on the
Comes out
north
to
side.
Zeeb up here.
On Park Road on the north side is Park Road.
Just past Meyer.
Access Slim Chickens.
Just past Slim Chickens. Next item then, so we'll bring that back next time with more information.
At some point, will Matt present on that?
What's that?
Will Matt be presenting on that at some point or no?
He doesn't really, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We did talk to OHM, that where the path connects into Cedar Ridge, they would need to get some survey done. Cause that existing connection probably doesn't meet ADA, so we wanna make sure those grades all meet ADA, is where things tie together. But for the most part, it's flat soil, you just strip off the topsoil, put some stone down.
So it's not very far.
No, well, it's 180 feet, so yeah, it's not far at all, but.
And it does actually connect through to Z, it's just you're going through the subdivision.
Right, then, yeah, exactly. If the other part never gets done, at least the neighborhoods would be connected.
Yeah, and people could get the zebra,
To the neighborhoods.
Starbucks and
Mhm.
Panera and
Right, exactly.
the chicken place and
Mhm.
all that stuff, mine or whatever, yeah.
Don't forget Leo's.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay.
Item bathrooms, so we already talked about the bathrooms, brainstorming for West Sile Ridge Preserve clarifying signage.
Yeah, this one I'll kind of speak for Murphy. I think when she comes back, she'll have a little more detail. But when we purchased property for West Side Preserve, there's a clause in there that we were supposed to name a portion of the property, the entrance, after the family's name. We've never done that. So this kind of came, they had contacted us to inform us of the section of the contract that it's supposed to be named after their family. I don't know. I'll wait for Murphy to get back. I know that's and maybe she's going to get the actual contract. Yep, so we're gonna have to clarify what type of signage and where we want to place that signage towards the entrance of the West Side Preserve.
So similar to other preserves.
Yeah,
We
we just
Sloan
neglected.
Preserve is,
Yeah,
You said
Peter's
just a
Preserve.
portion of the site?
yeah, I believe so. Do you have
Oh,
the
yes,
contract?
that's why I was.
Okay, I thought you might be going to get the contract, so.
I was like, I think I powered through without my notes, but can't. Okay, so we're talking about the West Scio issue.
Yep.
So I got a call from Gary Vanderhagen, I think it was just last week, and he just wanted to let me know that in the agreement, when he sold Scio the property, which is at the end of Dino Drive, that part of the agreement was that the property would be named in recognition of his family, the Vanderhagen family. I have a copy of said agreement here. And so in speaking with him, I told him that I was confident that there is kind of a push to move away from naming parks after people. Is that correct?
That's kind of been the discussion, the parks.
Okay.
Why?
Over,
Why?
that's a good question. I don't know if I remember. I think we just, I'm not sure. I think.
If your family donates it?
Yeah.
But it wasn't donated.
Or, I mean,
It wasn't,
sells
yeah.
it. I mean, yeah,
Well, it was a condition of the
It's-
sale.
exactly.
Correct.
So
Right.
contract-
That's-
Sale, I don't think we can back out of that one.
And so, and that happens. So-
Yes, and so we wanted to kind of brainstorm a couple of ideas because changing the name of the entire park seems difficult at this point. So I did speak with him and I'd be happy, well, we'll have to speak with him again after this discussion. But I asked if he had any flexibility in moving forward from this because the park is now named West Side Preserve. And he said that he might consider like what I tried to explain it to him, like a post that says like generously purchased from the Vanderhagen family or something along those lines, like next to the West Side Preserve sign. We were also thinking that because it's 13 acres, if we could maybe, I don't know how exactly we do this, which is why I was wanting your input, but having part of West Scio recognized as, so it'd still be all West Scio, but maybe like the Vanderhagen Woods of West Scio, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Or trail or little pond or something, some feature.
Yeah,
I could give a historical spin to it, the former Vanderhagen homestead, 1830 to 1930, whatever it is. I
Some
don't know.
memorial. Okay.
okay.
Yeah, like U of M Stadium is U of M Stadium, but they have the Smith entrance or the Davis Club or whatever.
Yes.
And what you just said about Vanderhagen, I don't know, entrance or something, yeah.
you know.
And I think that considering that it is kind of a large blunder to, at this point, I'd like to give him options. So instead of just saying, this is what we're
Can I
gonna
see
do. Yes.
You're gonna obviously work with Mariah on this, right?
Oh, yeah, yes.
I mean, the other hand is, I guess, the West Scio Reserve, and luckily we didn't name it after someone else. It's like, oh, now we gotta take the Miller's name off of this and put the Smith's
Yeah.
name on it. The West Scio Preserve is pretty generic, so we had to take it and change it to Vander
I just
Vanderhagen.
printed the last page.
It
sorry.
wouldn't be, I mean, like I said, thankfully, we didn't like put Miller name on it, and now we gotta change it to Smith, it's like, okay. So to me, it's possible, but there's options too, like, okay, this is, so of that West Scio Preserve. I mean, the West Scio Preserve is pretty big, right?
Yeah.
So this is only 13 acres of this, how many acres? You don't
Like
know.
90?
90, so I mean, so maybe that's where the woods, I mean, if that's, if it is the woods portion of this 90 acres and 13 acres. So I think that's where, because it's not all of it
Right.
was theirs, only 13 of the 90. So maybe, yeah, the woods or the wetlands or the swamp or the.
Swamp.
The Vanderhagen Swamp.
Yeah, Vanderhagen Swamp.
I think it's interesting to educate people that maybe this wood is second growth wood. Maybe it was formerly a farm field, maybe, and provide some historical
Right.
history of the land with that recognition.
I think this is something we should explore as far as like, what does that mean? When they owned the property, what was the theme? What, you know, was it agriculture? Did they specialize, in some part of agriculture? Something that reflects that and, you know. Okay, this is something, this will be a fun project to work on.
Yeah.
Of the 90 acres, I'm guessing that was probably multiple other purchases? Or was it just like 13 here and,
That I don't know.
because I think that we need
I
history,
actually
because I'm
don't
guessing
think it is
it was a combination of a bunch of
I think so.
parcels to get to that 90. So, you know, if we start naming it, okay, this is Vander, and then this is the Smith, this is this Jones, this is this, you know, next thing we're gonna have the West Side Reserve is like 13 names.
And luckily, I think he might be the only one that we've
Okay.
done this with.
When was
So-
that agreement written up? Sorry.
That's what we're.
So sorry, I only
When
printed the last
Spalding clerk
page,
of the
so I'm not
supervisor,
sure.
does that help?
Oh, sorry, who?
When Spalding.
Oh,
clerk-
that went till 20 years ago, could have been.
Okay,
Is that right?
So-
Or it could have been earlier, I mean, more recent, so.
Bob is gonna know this whole piece. He's gonna know everything about
Yeah.
who belonged to what, and we should consult with Bob.
Okay.
We've kind of been using West Scio generically with the newer parcels that have come into the fold, connecting in there, so it encompasses.
But we could have corridors, we can make fun names out of it, you know, I mean, well, not make fun. I mean, we can have a little bit.
Get creative.
Creative. And, but honor the families with something that, you know, applies, applicable.
The question I have when I go out there is, what was this before it was the West? What was there, was this a homestead? Was there a log cabin? I'm always thinking about things like that.
I would, again, talk to Mariah. Say, hey, what are my options here? What's your advice on this?
Yeah.
And then kind of go from there.
With the parameters of
She
our.
might say, oh, you gotta do this or this or whatever, so take your lead from her, then kind of go from there to see, you know.
But I think it's West Side is this big and this is a portion of
We
it.
agreed to name the whole kit and caboodle after him, we agreed to it.
Well, at the time, I
I
think
understand,
this
whether,
is the only part for.
But I think we bought it different times, so.
I understand that, but we may have agreed, you're right, and therefore we added all the other stuff to the Van Hagen Preserve. So that's why I say.
Yeah.
Talk to Mariah to see what the parameters are and what you're dealing with, whether you have to, you know, you gotta name a bird bath after them or everything.
We're all 90 acres, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
next one is wayfinding and design, but we already mentioned that.
Yeah.
Board approve that.
Okay.
I-1, I think it's.
That was the attachment,
Okay,
the quote from ET.
so we'll get more page on that, so. Guess we're back to J.
Yep.
So public comment at the end of the meeting, same thing, you got 3 minutes to talk about items. Anyone here? In the room? No? Anyone
No hands are up at the moment. No hands are raised.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Just in terms of, what Will was talking about with the DDA plan coming up. Let's talk about a wish list. As a committee, we talk about a lot of things and we come to resolutions on quite a few things, but we always have things sort of always kind of out there. My question is, does it make any sense, to come up with a subcommittee, for example? That could be very specific about writing out certain goals. Obviously, everybody would contribute to the idea formation, but then a subcommittee perhaps could write them out to be more specific, more focused, and maybe even some timelines. Not that the subcommittee would override this committee, it's that somebody, and I'm calling it a subcommittee, maybe there's a different name or a better way to do it, but that we can be more focused and write things out and have them ready for being submitted and if the DDA has an open mind to sharing some of their funding with us and because we have no money to spend. And of course, then the other half of that is, well, all right, we might even be able to use that same amount of energy to not only work with the DDA and get some of that funding, but use that same energy and be more focused to the board and some of the resolutions or requests that we have, or suggestions that we're having, and maybe have a little more traction with the kinds of things we want to get done. I don't know.
I think,
What do you think?
can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
I think that, a couple things need to happen. For one thing, Heather's not here. We should have signed that to her.
Oh, yeah.
But, I think what we need to do is see what the DDA is going to do with this. If they're gonna rewrite their, or what, I don't know what you wanna call it, but if they're gonna rework everything, we might want to, kind of see what that means to us, okay? What the, but I think it's something to, well, we do have the capital improvements meeting hanging over us coming up, not that far away, is it
Not
December?
far, December.
So maybe this is something we should put on the agenda for next time, and maybe folks should just brainstorm a little bit and think about, or.
The DDA thing was just to spark the idea of,
Right.
hey, it would really be good for us if, in general, we could be more line item specific about the kinds of things that we're talking about all the time and bring it into sharper focus. And whether or not we use it for the DDA, which I think we could, but we could just use it for our own purposes, and presenting things to the board.
And I think that it could easily fall in line with some of our capital improvement projects, because when we're looking at the playground and pavilion alone, those are capital projects. And if that's something that the DDA can chip in on, knowing that this is stuff that the community is asking for specifically, I can't see, I think that there's definitely overlap between capital improvement and areas that the DDA would be motivated, hopefully, to help us.
I hope so too. And again, the only idea, the reason I thought of a subcommittee is just because we can take everybody's ideas and bring them to a subcommittee level where perhaps we could have a more focused approach in that time. And not to go back to the bathrooms, but it's a perfect example, I think, of if we perhaps could have had a more drawn out reasoning why and maybe a better argument for why 2 bathrooms were better than 1. Maybe somehow who knows? You can't predict what didn't happen. I'm just wondering if we're missing out on things like that. That's all, just.
It seems like kind of a refinement of the pros plan.
Sorry?
It seems a bit like a refinement of the pros plan to go into more detail of the pros plan sits.
Yeah, and the DDA is gonna be a long term. I mean, they're looking 3, 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
But I think, Rita's point, your point, our capital thing, we need to, I think next meeting, have like a meeting working session, because that's for 2025, and 2025 is just around the corner.
Sure.
We need to get that, I mean, the budget gets put together in March, but in January, February, that's when we're starting to put all those things together. So like we could print what it's in there now and things we accomplished this year and still probably just gonna carry over next year. And then what we want to look at doing in 2025 and 2026, just in parks. But then they would also eventually roll into the DDA is when they start, because like I said, the 06 plan, that it gets updated, but that's not gonna get updated. And
And
probably
who
a
knows
12-month process. And then once it's developed, then it's like multi-year thing. But the capital thing, we do need to get our arms around that quick because our 2025 budgets projects are like, okay, what do we want to spend money on in 2025 and what things we carry over? So I think that should be an item on our December, so we can sit down and talk about what do we want to do parks in 2025?
Yeah.
And then look at 2026 and then some of that stuff would carry over, like, oh, this future project in this area, which is in the DDA. If the DDA does, want to do something, has money and wants to commit to doing stuff, we can partner with them. 2027 on whatever that thing is, so.
Another thing I think we might consider is having, this may not be so formal, but some kind of liaison, or some kind of relationship with the DDA so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, or what their goals are. And I think it might be a good idea for us to at least attempt to work a little closer at times so that this doesn't like pop up like,
Right.
oh, here's this,
Exactly.
what do you want, I think both of us need to have a better idea of what our goals are, how they can complement each other.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Another meeting is six.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Well,
Anyway, just as a quick offshoot of everything, I'm trying to think of all these things bubbling in my head to try to focus it on this. Well, again, I'll keep calling it a subcommittee. But Rita, just exactly right. There are so many things and it isn't, they all, of course, come down to money. And DDA has money, the board has money, and we're always asking for it because we have none of our own. So, yeah.
We have a village.
Yeah, but we can't spend it.
Oh,
Yeah, we
So-
allow authorization to spend it, but we.
It's like, okay, here's this
Yeah,
pot of
you
gold, but you can't have it, whatever. Just again, to be more focused.
I get
Anyway, there you go.
I like both those ideas, and I also like to hear from the DDA, what do they think about parks and preserves that are near them? What's their agenda or goals? Do they want a pathway into the West Scio Preserve, for example? Different signs, I'm just trying to make up things, but they might have some ideas for us, so we have ideas for their money and they might have ideas for our.
Right.
sure.
But really, that's where the liaison would come in, I think that makes a
They
lot of
don't meet
sense.
that often, but it
Well-
might be nice if sometimes, or somehow we had someone from Parks was just there
Yeah,
to kind of,
Didn't the BOT just approve something for the complete street review on Jackson
Yes,
Boulevard?
they did last night. It's not.
So they're gonna look at Jackson Boulevard as more of a complete street, but something that, is that DDA driven or township driven?
They got a grant for it and OHM will be doing a traffic study. I think it should be done in July, somewhere in
So it's
there.
really not the DDA, it's a township?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I believe so.
It seems like we should be somewhat engaged in that.
well, yeah.
planning.
It's coming from planning.
Planning, okay. John, planning. Good. All right, thank you. All right,
Well,
No,
does the DDA and planning have kind of a little relationship too? It seems like they would, or not really. Okay, but we don't have to open that box.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Conversation.
Okay,
None of
yeah,
that.
all right.
All right, no other items, motion to adjourn at 5:43. You move?
Oh,
Any of us.
well, whatever.
Oh,
Sure.
it's
I'm-
All of us.
Thomas, but Steve Kern second, how about that?
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Opposed? That's Gary. Thank you.
all right.
After none, but yeah, we should maybe force it down.